fucking good! Hey, get some, baby! Get some! Get some! Get some! Get some! Get some! Come on! Get it! Come on!
Internet, what is up? Well, welcome to the first recorded episode of the podcast, and we're going to launch with Weapons Free Wednesday. So let's do everybody's favorite and get the business portion out of the way. This will go up on our YouTube channel. So in case those of you that are listening to the podcast, if you guys are on Spotify, if you guys are on Apple, iTunes or podcasts or whatever podcasting medium, if you're just getting on this from a audio medium, like we are going to start putting these episodes up on YouTube. And I don't know right out of the gate if we're going to do every other one or every single episode from here on out, but we're going to start trying to work to get some recorded podcasts up and populate on the YouTube channel's been up for a minute, and it's got, I think we've already got like 3 videos. We're about to have a fourth video is about to drop, and that's about to go up, I think, sometime this week, probably Friday. I don't know if we're going to start doing videos on Fridays, dropping videos on Fridays. I don't know. But we've got our 4th installment of the Lone Element channel on YouTube getting ready to go up. So if you guys haven't swung over to YouTube, go check out YouTube. Also, we're working to regain our footing on Instagram. So if you guys are not, or you were unaware, we got deleted on Instagram. So if you can go back over there at Lone Element _actual, give us a follow. That would be fantastic. And also, if you guys want to sign up on Patreon, we've got 3 tiers over on Patreon. We've got our Around the Campfire, which is $10 a month. We have our In the Team Room, which is $25 a month. And we have our In the Stack, which is $50 a month. So go swing over there and give us a follow, like, subscribe, do all the things on all the channels. And that takes care of the business part. So this episode of Weapons Free Wednesday, which I think is our 32nd episode, which means we've got 64 episodes in total, which is, I think we're doing pretty good. We sneak up on our 1-year mark podcasting this next month. I think July 1st, maybe. I don't know. I have to go back and look. Pretty sure it's July is our 1-year anniversary mark. It's been a year already, if you guys can believe that. I can't really believe that it's gone by that fast. I actually can't believe that we're nearly in the middle of summer already. I mean, it's already June 21st. So we're about ready to have 4th of July already. So I don't know where 2022 is going, but it's moving quick. So that said, we're going to talk about something that I've just kind of been sitting back and waiting and watching and letting things develop. And I've been ruminating on, basically what I've basically been letting the situation unfold and develop before, I come out and have opinions on things. I like to let things settle a little bit. It was a good lesson that we learned in combat with, collecting intelligence on the enemy or just reacting to enemy activity. We like to let the situation develop and see what happens so that we can make we can make the right choice in regard to dealing with whatever particular situation or man, I'm tongue tied today. Actualizing. I don't even think that's a word. Is actualizing a word? I don't know. Actionable intel. That's what I was trying to say. So I wanted to talk about the Uvalde situation, and I think it's first of all, just my heart goes out to the families and the parents. Me being a parent, I can't tell you, how horrifying it would be to lose my son. So I can't even begin to identify with or understand the level of pain that those parents down in Texas are going through, or any of the parents that have suffered, been victimized by, active shooting, whether it was in Las Vegas or Sandy Hook or Parkland or wherever, Columbine, or any of the other places that it's happened. I can't even begin to understand that. So yeah, my heart goes out to you guys. The main thing that I wanted to touch on was the politicization of this issue, and what's going on with regard to how the knee-jerk reaction has been with rushing straight to attacking the Second Amendment and attacking our gun rights, because make no mistake, that's exactly what it is. And unfortunately, it's a political objective, of the current administration, and they have spared no opportunity to, turn this crisis into momentum for their political objectives. So once again, we're back to the things that I've talked about for the last year with regard to anything relative to politics. It's a failure of the system, and it's a complete lack of leadership. Our Second Amendment rights are extremely important. We cannot give those up. And I've had talks with several people, and some of the things that I wanted to talk about was the propaganda that propagated from this situation, this tragic event, but also propagated from Mathew McConaughey going in and basically addressing the press corps at the White House, and how the right and left both took his speech and they chopped it up into clips that would support their whatever political lens they wanted you to see things through. And so what I would encourage you guys to do, because several people sent me they sent me the quick blurb on Reels or on Instagram in my DMs of this these specific talking points from Mathew McConaughey, and they were grotesquely skewed, and a lot of people sent them to me, and they're like with negative derogatory things to say about Mr. McConaughey. And I think that it's just the right side does propaganda too. They run information operations and disinformation campaigns just like the left does. And so to kind of see him getting run down like he did without any full context of the speech was part of the problem that we're facing in this country right now, in terms of like how social media is being weaponized. So what I did was I jumped on and I watched the entirety of his speech. And what I would say is it was a very heartfelt, very poignant, and very emotional speech, and rightly so. Like, kids lost their lives. People lost their lives. That's his hometown, and that's where he grew up. And I can completely understand why he was extremely emotional about it. But I thought he gave a very poignant speech to the press corps at the White House, and I thought it was well done. So my hat is off to him in how he presented that. And I would encourage all of you guys to go over there, and if you search it on YouTube, you can check it out. And there's one thing that I want to be very clear about, is that he was not screaming for gun control. He mentions it. He mentions responsible gun ownership, but he at no time led any of his talking points with gun control. So he primarily spent the bulk of the speech talking about the beautiful children that were unfortunately lost, and talking about their lives and their dreams and their hopes and their ambitions and what they wanted to do when they grew up, and unfortunately didn't get the chance. So he gets to a point in his speech, I think it's around, the whole thing's like 20 minutes, and he gets to the tail end of it, and he starts proposing ideas for what could potentially solve this problem. And he starts really trying to appeal to the the politicians on the right and the left side of the aisle with regard to the first thing that he said is we need secure schools. And he's absolutely right. We need to do a way better job of securing the schools, because that's what caused the situation to happen. This school was unequipped and was probably not that well funded, not that well guarded. We still don't know what the school resource officer was doing. A lot more things have come to light in terms of the law enforcement response to this was horrifically piss poor. So we've seen today, as a matter of fact, images being released of the school interior security cameras being released, where the police are hanging out in the hallway, and everybody's got body armor on, and everybody's got, a rifle, and we've got 3 ballistic shields out there in the hallway, and we've got police that are not doing their job, hanging out, waiting to be told what to do instead of like taking action and actually mitigating the threat. And they hung out in the hallway for 46 minutes, waiting for what? I don't know. There's also talk out there, and this is unsubstantiated, but there's also talk out there that the on-site incident or crisis response commander, like, forgot his radio. So when we want to start peeling the layers back on this thing, we need to really take a look at some of the things that could have stopped this, other than now resorting to a huge political mess and the continued subversion of the Second Amendment. So it's really upsetting to me. But getting back to what Mr. McConaughey was talking about, he led with we need to do a better job of securing our schools. He didn't lead with like, hey, let's ban guns. We need good gun control. He didn't say gun control one time. He said responsible gun ownership. And I'll address that in a second. But he basically talked about securing the schools. He talked about mental health, which is that's the problem, is we have a huge mental health issue in this country, and we need to try and figure out how to get our arms around that, and figure out what that looks like and what we're going to do to stop people that have mental health issues from accessing firearms and going and conducting these types of violent attacks on innocent people. So I'm in complete agreement with his first 2 talking points. We need better security at schools, and we need better mental health issues, or not issues, but like better mental health management. And he asked for he said, let's reduce the sensationalization by the media, and I agree with that. And he asked for restoring. Here's the 2 talking points that I thought was the best. Was he said, let's restore family values and let's restore American values. And nothing is more American, in my opinion, than the Second Amendment. And I think we need to stop the assault on our Second Amendment. I think we need to, the right to bear arms shall be unfringed. Unfringed is the operative phrase there. And we continue to have this assault because I'll get into the political part of this in a second, but the part of the conversation after he went through those first few talking points where he said, let's secure the schools, let's have mental health, let's reduce media damn, tongue tied today. Drink more water. Anyway, reduce media sensationalization. I don't even know if that's a word. Media. I'm not even going to attempt that again. You know what I'm talking about. Okay. And restoring family values. He then diverged off into, we need better background checks. Well, we have background checks. We have waiting periods. We have all those things. So here's where we start to diverge a little bit, but I just want to make it clear, like, even in where we're starting to diverge and where I agree with what he was saying, is what I want to be clear about is he was not pounding his fist on the table screaming for gun control. He wasn't saying, he didn't say one time in there, let's ban AR-15s, let's ban AK-47s, let's ban semi-automatic. He didn't say any of that. But, and this is where I will be, a little bit more critical of Mr. McConaughey, is that he, like most people that I've met that don't have a very intimate relationship with firearms or with their Second Amendment, he alluded to the fact that he learned how to use his Daisy Red Ryder when he was a kid. Me too. I received my first, my dad bought me my first rifle. I think it was a little lever action Marlin 22 caliber rifle when I was 7 years old. That was my first gun. And I got my first gun at 7. And I was taught how to be responsible with it. And I was taught how to shoot it, and I was taught how to be safe with it. And those lessons continued on through my young adult life until I got to the military. And then those lessons were hammered home with proper weapons handling safety rules, proper training and management and storage of firearms. Like all of that stuff was definitely became, second nature. But when he starts talking about like, let's raise the age of to 21 to buy a firearm, to buy a semi-automatic rifle, I disagree with that. And the reason I disagree with that is because when I was 18 years old, I left to go join the military. And yes, when I was 18, we were not in a time of war. That happened when I was 23 years old, in which case I'd already started the reenlistment process prior to 9/11. But, I went downrange and did my job. And I was happy to do it. I would do it again. But you can't take 18-year-olds and expect them to go fight your wars and die for you and not treat them like adults. And I have a huge problem with that. I have a huge problem with saying that you have to be 21 years of age to buy a firearm, but you only have to be 18 years old to go die for your country. So I have a fundamental problem with that. I also have a fundamental problem with the fact that kids can get behind the wheel of a car at 16 years old, and we don't think anything about that. And tens of thousands, I don't have the statistics here in front of me, but tens of thousands of people die every year in car accidents. Like, cars by far kill more people than guns do every single year. So uh, the fact that we just let 16-year-olds get behind the wheel of a car after they, do a little driver's ed, they take a little test, boom, here's a vehicle. Here's a huge chunk of metal to sit in and hurtle yourself down the highway at 70, 80 miles an hour. I think that we're willing to do that, but now we're saying, oh, you have to be 21 years old to basically participate in your constitutional rights. You only have to be 18 years old to go die for your country, but you have to be 21 now to participate in your constitutional rights. So I think if you're old enough to go die for your country, you're old enough to vote, you should be old enough to own a firearm. Okay. And those of us that are, objective enough and have spent enough time and are intimate enough with firearms, we all know that an age limit is not the problem. I had my first firearm when I was 7 years old. I was taught to manage it, operate it, and store it properly, as I'm sure Mr. McConaughey was with his 410 shotgun. So when we want to start talking about responsible gun ownership, that we're running into a disconnect for a lot of reasons. And those reasons are the majority of us are responsible gun owners. We are. I would like to remind everybody that when we're like, oh, we need more laws, we need stricter gun control measures, we need to make this law, we need to make that law. Well, I'd like to remind everybody, murder is already illegal. Okay? It's illegal to go kill another human being unless it's in self-defense, unless it's in accordance with the law. Unless you have somebody that's attacking you, trying to take your life, trying to take the lives of your loved ones, then you can respond and you can use lethal or deadly force to save the lives of yourself or innocent bystanders. Okay. So, to say that we don't have not responsible armed citizenry, which we do, but we don't have responsible gun ownership measures is a little bit laughable. Like, all of the things that he asked for, we already do. He's asking for background checks. He's asking for waiting periods. He's asking for, consequences, stiffer consequences if you break any of these laws. And so the problem is criminals don't care about your laws because they're already out there. They're stealing guns out of people's houses, out of people's, they're breaking into somebody's home to steal these guns, or they're buying these guns, illegally off the street from somebody that already broke into somebody's place and stole it. And they're already breaking the law. They're already breaking the law 2 or 3 or 4 times before they get to the part where they're breaking the most important law, which is murdering innocent people. Murder is already illegal, and it's not stopping these people. Okay? If I take my gun, and I had it right now, and I set it on this table, we could go through this whole conversation, and guess what? My gun would not jump off the table and start randomly shooting through the wall or killing people that are walking by my window right now. Because it's not the gun. It's the human being. Which brings us back to, this is a mental health issue. How do we get our hands around this mental health issue? The red flag laws. Okay, everybody, like, that's the new catchphrase that I keep hearing. All of these people that, are on the fence with firearms, or they're on the extreme left-hand side and they want to ban guns and they want to take guns away. They're talking about red flag laws. Here's why the red flag laws are dangerous, and here's why I believe they won't work. Look at what's going on social media already. We already have a divergence on social media where social media is being weaponized and it's being used. The people that are in charge of social media that have a specific political belief and agenda and direction are silencing those in the opposition. And to give you an example, we'll go back to what I've talked about a lot, which is my Instagram channel being basically deleted right at almost 9,000 users. And why? Because I was very vocal on my thoughts with COVID. I was very vocal on, my belief in the Second Amendment. I was very vocal with a lot of things that were very counter to the belief system of the people that own and run that platform. So what happened? I got reported over and over and over again, and I racked up all these infractions, and then they shut my account down. And so what happens when you have, let's just say for a second, I'm a conservative, law-abiding gun owner who enjoys shooting sports, and I go to the range regularly and I shoot 3-gun. Let's just say I go shoot 3-gun. And now I'm getting out of my car and I'm unloading boxes of ammo, and I'm unloading these these rifles into my garage. And maybe I want to leave my garage open. And maybe I want to leave my garage open, and maybe I want to play some music, have an adult beverage, crack open a beer, and I want to sit down at my gun bench, and I want to break my rifle down, and I want to start cleaning my rifle. I want to have my garage door open. I want to sit there at my bench, and I want to put my, my bolt action rifle or my shotgun or my AR-15 or my handgun or fill in the blank, whatever firearm, or all three, because that's what you use, all three for 3-gun. Let's just say, because it's the political hot ticket shit right now, that I have my AR-15 up there that I use for competition purposes and sporting purposes, and I'm sitting there cleaning my AR-15 at my gun bench, having a beer, listening to some music, got the garage door open, fresh air, and my neighbor comes out on his front porch. And let's just say my neighbor is on the other end of the political spectrum and doesn't believe in firearms ownership, doesn't believe in the Second Amendment, doesn't believe anybody should own firearms. And he looks across there and he sees a gear bag, a couple boxes of ammo, maybe my shotgun and my bolt action gun leaning up against the door of the gun safe. He sees me sitting at the bench, and what am I doing? I'm enjoying a beer and I am cleaning my rifle. So what does he do? He walks in, because red flag laws are a thing now. And he walks in and he calls the police and reports me as being crazy, or acting abnormally, or doing weird things, or just making up whatever bullshit he wants, just like they do on social media, where, I'm talking to somebody about how important it is to dry fire, and they flag me for the sale of illegal goods and take away my Instagram account because I'm talking to somebody about dry firing for marksmanship practice or fill in the blank reason. Okay, they just make up whatever they want, and then they report you. And then that's what happens. And so then you'll have responsible gun owners that will not fall in line with the politics of their neighbors, and their neighbors will see at some point that they're gun owners, and they'll report them. and they will then begin to weaponize red flag laws. And that's why red flag laws will not work. And that's why they're bullshit. Just straight up bullshit. Okay. Because people will weaponize that loophole and they will start attacking responsible gun owners. Then the cops show up. They don't know what to believe. Maybe this person is psycho. Maybe they're not psycho. We don't know. But this person reported them. So now you're going to get all your guns confiscated. The police are going to show up on these red flag laws and they're going to confiscate all your guns. And you were just sitting out there cleaning your guns, getting ready to put them back in your gun safe, enjoying a beer, had your garage door open, being a responsible human being, being a responsible gun owner, and enjoying your constitutional rights and your favorite pastime. And now you're getting raided by the police, and now they're confiscating your guns because your neighbor doesn't like you and because your neighbor doesn't have the same political belief system. And we're already seeing this happen in mass on social media. So for anybody to try and sit there and bullshit me and tell me, oh, this would never happen, it will happen. People will weaponize red flag laws, and lots of innocent people will get screwed and get their guns confiscated for no reason. So that's why red flag laws will not work, and then to say we need stiffer consequences for breaking the law. I mean, I don't know how stiffer we can get with the death penalty for, if you're found guilty of murdering innocent people. I don't know. It's a thing in some states, a lot of states have the death penalty. So I don't know how much more stiff we can get with our consequences. And then we need a more polite and civil society. I completely agree with you. It creates a more polite and civil society, an armed society. An armed society is a polite society. Okay. Criminals will think twice if they look at something and they're trying to make that assessment on whether they want to break the law, whether they want to enact an attack, whether they want to conduct a robbery, armed robbery, whether they want to victimize somebody, whether they want to carjack somebody. They will think twice, and it will actually have a lower crime rate if they think that they could get shot by anybody around them. So imagine if we had a will issue scenario where everybody that wanted to could own a firearm, could carry it concealed, and now you've got criminals running around and they have to decide, is the squeeze worth the juice on this? Should I run in there and try and rob this convenience store, or will the three people that are in there shopping right now, to include the clerk at the counter, gun me down if I draw my weapon and try and rob this place? They would think twice about trying to carjack somebody at an intersection if there's a possibility that person and the three cars that are around that car are all armed. So I think an armed society is a polite society, and that will in turn create more civility in our society. One thing I did like about what he was saying was he called out the politicians. He said the people in power have failed. And I completely agree with that statement, that the people in power have definitely failed. And I've discussed this time and time and time again with regard to a failure in leadership. We've got self-serving individuals that want to go into public office so that they can manipulate the system, and so that they can attain power, and so that they can do things for their own self-interest instead of the interests of their constituency, and instead of the interests of their country and their state. So I'd like to remind everybody that we are a constitutional republic, and therefore we are told over and over again, oh, you're democracy. We're actually not democracy. We're actually a constitutional republic. And I'm hoping that people will keep that in mind as they try and ramrod this latest gun legislation through the House and the Senate. And I took a look at it today. And what I find highly interesting about it is that, and here's what I will say before I dig into what the contents of this bill are, is that it's very commendable. I think Mr. McConaughey's, I think his heart and his intent was very much in the right place. I didn't find, as somebody who's staunchly pro 2A and as a decorated former combat veteran, I did not find any of his statements to be anti-gun. I don't think he has an anti-gun agenda, and I think his heart was in the right place. And I think as he mentioned, middle America, most of us we want good leadership. We want some accountability. We don't have any accountability in this administration. And I don't know when the last time we've had accountability in politics. Like, politicians they just continue to do whatever it is that they want to do, and at the cost of the American taxpayer. And so I think, although Mr. McConaughey's heart was in the right place in going to the White House and addressing the press corps in the White House and basically addressing the politicians. I can't remember a time where politicians did something right. I can't remember a time where we've passed any type of legislation that made sense or that was reasonable. We, as the Americans, just continue to get things shoved down our throat, and we just continue to have to pay the bill for it. So I actually jumped online today. I got on the congress.gov, and I would encourage all of you guys to get on and take a look at this bill. It is it's HR 7910. You can find it on congress.gov. And what I thought was hilarious about this is it's called the Protecting Our Kids Act. And if you go through and you read the sections in this bill, there is nothing in here. There's no provisions in here that do anything to improve security at schools for our children. This is all very anti-Second Amendment and very manipulative, which is what I think the American people are tired of seeing. We're tired of seeing this manipulation by the House and the Senate, by these two political parties that hold the rest of us hostage, and we just have to go along. And we're dealing with the same thing here in this particular bill, HR 7910. It's called the Protecting Our Kids Act. If you go through it, there's nothing that talks about protecting their kids. There's nothing that addresses mental health, which to me, and it's what Mr. McConaughey led with in his discussion at the White House, the first two things out of his mouth were, we need to do something about securing the schools, and we need to do something with mental health. And this bill contains none of that. Instead, this bill wants to raise the age to buy a firearm to 21 years of age. Okay, it wants to prevent gun trafficking. Hey, newsflash, gun trafficking is already illegal, so we have more redundant bullshit legislation going on here. We basically have the House and the Senate wasting taxpayer dollars to pass laws that are already illegal. Okay, gun trafficking, it's already illegal. Okay, so I don't know. It's got sections in here that talk about prohibition of straw purchase of firearms. Guess what? That's already illegal. I can't walk into a gun store and buy a gun for another person. I can't be out in the parking lot and have some dude come up to me and be like, hey bro, like, I really like that Glock 19 in there. If you buy me that Glock 19, I'll give you an extra $200 on top of whatever you pay for it if you just go buy it for me. Like, that is already illegal. Okay, you cannot do that already. So why that is even in here, I have no idea, but it's in here. So then they talk about prohibition on disposition of firearms to a person intending unlawful further disposition, penalties, firearms subject to forfeiture. Let's see, untraceable firearms. Okay, so this section, this is Title 3 of this, basically addresses all of these, the ghost gun issue, which I find laughable, but there is some very dangerous language in there. Which we'll just go to this section, and I'll just go through some of this. Okay, so in here it talks about the term manufacturing firearms shall include the assembling of a functional firearm, or molding, machining, or 3D printing a frame or receiver, and shall not include making, a fitting, special barrel, stocks, trigger mechanisms, and whatnot. Okay, and then they talk about term ghost gun. Means a firearm including a frame or receiver that lacks a unique serial number engraved or cast on the frame or receiver, importer licensed by a licensed manufacturer importer in accordance with the chapter, and does not include a firearm that has been rendered permanently inoperable. Okay, so they continue on here. So they're basically trying to close the loop on what they've been calling ghost guns. So let's just be really clear about ghost guns. First of all, an 80% lower that you have to like machine yourself to complete is not a firearm. Okay, it's a chunk of metal, and until you make it a firearm, it's not a firearm. Now that used to be completely legal, and now they're saying that you can no longer do that. So like all your P80 kits and all of the, all of the 80% lowers and stuff that have been a thing in the past, they're trying to close the loop on that and get rid of. And it's a tracking, being able to track serial numbers on things is they want to move, and there's been other Second Amendment pundits that have been way more poignant on this, like go check out Colion Noir. He's talked about this in depth. They're moving towards a gun registry. That's why they want serial numbers on everything, is because they want to know where the guns are, who's got the guns. And so when it's confiscation time, okay, and although I think that's completely unrealistic and would pretty much be the unraveling of this country if that were to start happening, I think that realistically, that's what they're going to continue to chip away with. That's their agenda. They want to continue to chip and chip and chip and chip away at our rights until we're in that neighborhood where they want a full registry. And so what's funny about this, though, is if you continue to go down the line here, they talk about, let me see here. They talk about they talk about making illegal any machine that's used to manufacture a firearm, but it doesn't specify what machine. So if this goes through, they could technically walk into a machine shop. Let's just say you're a machinist, and they walk into your machine shop and they see your lathe, or they see your CNC machine, or they see your other they see your lathe, they see your CNC machine, they see your other machines that you use to do machining in your shop. Those could be construed as a machine to make firearms, and they could confiscate those from you, or they could make those illegal. So what if you're some guy that just wants to run a machine shop? So there's very specific language in here where they are trying to say that any machine that's used to make a firearm is illegal unless you have a federal firearms license. And let's be clear about some things real quick. And I hope this educates some of you that are way out there on that, on that left side of the spectrum, or that are sitting on the fence with the whole gun issue. Let's just be real about something. Okay. This ghost gun issue, like, I would love to see some research or some data to see how many ghost guns have been involved in like violent gun crime, because I don't really think it's probably a very high percentage. Because here's the rub on this: to get a 3D printer that will produce a functional firearm, you need $90,000 to $250,000 is what it takes to have a 3D printer that will print functional gun parts, like metal 3D printers or even composite 3D printers that will produce composite materials that could be strong enough to function a firearm. Cost $90,000 to $250,000. So you mean to tell me that this is a big, huge problem in America, where we have people running around, basically buying up these $90,000 to $250,000 3D printers to produce ghost guns? It's not a thing. Okay, this is about control. This is subversion tactics to like take steps towards a gun registry. They want serial numbers on everything, so everything's trackable, everything's traceable, and we can eventually wind up in a gun registry. That's the agenda. Okay. So if we can continue to, if we go we can continue to scroll down this. Then there's laws in here that say prevent Title II, prevent gun trafficking, which I already told you, like that's illegal. But what I found interesting in this section was they're going to start offering grants to any state or Indian reservation that has state laws already on the books that support any type of that make illegal any type of gun trafficking or any type of gun trafficking or any type. I'm sorry, I'm just scrolling through here. Untraceable firearms. And then if you continue to go down, read through this, where we talk about safe storage. Okay, they talk about amending Section 922, Title 18 of the United States Code. And they talk about, I think this is the section where they talk about, oh yes, firearms safe storage program. Okay, this is what I was alluding to. This is what I was speaking about just a second ago. The Assistant Attorney General shall make grants eligible to any state or Indian tribe to assist that state or Indian tribe in carrying out the provisions of any state or tribal law that is functionally identical to 922 .Z.4 of Title 18 United States Code. So then if you go to and you look up what, and I had it up earlier. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so if you look up United States, you look up 922 Z4 of Title 18 United States Code. It shall be unlawful for any person to transport or ship interstate or foreign commerce any stolen firearm or stolen ammunition, knowing or having reasonable cause to believe that the firearm or ammunition was stolen. Okay, so once again, it's already illegal. It's already a U.S. law, 18 -922. Okay, just look up 18 U.S. Code 922, unlawful acts. Okay, and it talks about the transportation or shipping of illegal goods. So they're talking about gun trafficking. All right, and these laws already exist. So tell me why we're passing more laws and we're wasting congressional floor time when the real issues here are saving children, securing schools, and dealing with the mental health aspect. And instead, we're attacking firearms and we're making redundant laws that already exist. And then we're coming up with strange funding mechanisms to provide grants to states that already have this law in the books. So, I mean, this is why I feel like I'm eating crazy pills when I try and dig into things like this, because this is a clear case of like, oh, we're going to start weaseling more money out of the American taxpayer under the premise of protecting the kids to funnel money, more funding towards states that already have these particular laws on the books. What in the fuck? Okay, somebody smarter than me, please explain to me this, because what it looks like is congressional embezzlement of taxpayer dollars to continue to fund special interest shit in particular states, is what it looks like to me. If I was a betting man. So, yeah, I don't understand why that's even a thing, realistically. So, so if we continue to go back now and we continue to go down the line here and continue to read more of where we're at here. Okay, so they talk about firearm safe storage. So then here's an interesting little blurb in this law where they're demanding that if you do not store your if you do not store your firearm properly, and somebody breaks into your house or somebody gets their hands on your guns and they go out and they break the law or they commit a violent act or they hurt somebody with that law, or I'm sorry, with that firearm, you actually get held accountable and you can go to jail. So also in regard to the this funding, there's a interesting clause in here that says, beginning 13 months after the first grants are awarded under this section and annually thereafter, Attorney General shall submit to Congress a report which shall include the following information: a list of grant recipients during the previous year, including the funds awarded cumulatively and disaggregated by grantee. The information collected pursuant to subsection D-1. And this says authorization of appropriation. This is authorized to be appropriated by the Attorney General to carry out the section for $10 million for each fiscal year 2023 through 2033, and to remain available until expended. Funds awarded under this section shall be allocated as follows: 75% of the funds by a grantee shall be used to create or provide resources for safe firearms storage assistance programs in this jurisdiction. Okay, that's interesting. But we all know that that money is going to get allocated and put into different budgets. Like, they're going to apply for that grant money, okay? Because this is how grants work. We take the grant, we apply for the grant. The grant money comes in, then we take the grant money and we chop it up and we put it in other little pots to fund other little things that we want to fund. Okay, states do it all the time. Okay, so how is this making anything safer? Like, why isn't this money? You're going to take 10 million and give it, you're going to have a $10 million budget per state, and you're going to give this money out to these states to have better firearms storage programs. I mean, okay, interesting concept, but I know already just from past experience with other programs, that's not where the money's going to go. Okay, the money's going to go into other people's pockets, or it's going to go to other programs. Okay, so then here's what's really interesting. Title 4, closing the bump stock loophole. Why are we still talking about bump stocks? Did the Uvalde shooter go in with a bump stock and machine gun everyone to death? No, he did not. So why are we still talking about closing the bump stock loophole? Okay, when has a bump stock been used in any crime? I don't even know anybody who even owns a bump stock. Okay, I don't even know why we're still talking about this bump stock issue. But here it is. They've plugged it in, okay, and they put it in this provision. And they tried to define, okay, the term bump stock means any of the following, not the following, which means they can apply whatever definition they want and call it a bump stock. Any manual, power-driven, or electronic device that is designed that such when the device is attached to a semi-automatic weapon, the device eliminates the need for the operator of a semi-automatic weapon to make a separate movement of each individual function of the trigger. Okay. I don't think that that's how bump stocks work, but okay. Material increases the rate of fire of a semi-automatic weapon, approximates the action of rate of fire of a machine gun. That's impossible to do with a bump stock. Any part of a combination of parts that is designed and functions to eliminate the need of. Okay, so once again, I could bore you guys to death with this fucking Title 5 in this law, Section 501. They're going after bump stocks. Once again, you're going after inanimate objects that are not the problem. Okay, we know what the problem is. We know that we have a mental health problem is the number one thing, and we know that we need to do a better job with securing schools. But yet here we are wasting taxpayer time, taxpayer dollars on dealing with bump stock issues. It's absolutely ridiculous. Okay, so then we get down here, Title 6, keeping Americans safe. Okay, and if you read through here, this is funny. Keeping Americans safe. That's what they're calling this little provision right here. This is Title 6, keeping Americans safe. You know what this is? This is an assault on magazine capacity. Okay. The term large capacity ammunition feeding device. That's what they're calling it. Large ammunition feeding device. Large capacity. Okay. Means a magazine, belt drum, feed strip, helical feeding device, or similar device, including any such device joined or coupled with another in any manner that has an overall capacity of, or that can be readily restored, changed, or converted to accept more than 15 rounds of ammunition and does not include an attached tubular device. So they're saying anything with a tube magazine, it's fine, which is completely dumb because there's plenty of magazines. There's plenty of rifles out there that have tubular magazines on them that you can that hold more than 15 rounds and that you can do an incredible amount of damage if you're so inclined. Okay. Once again, we're going after inanimate objects. Okay. They're going after magazine capacity because, I guess how many bullets you can put in a magazine is completely correlates to mental health and the fact that we have people that are already breaking the law by using a firearm to commit murder. Once again, I go back to murder's already illegal, but people are breaking that law. But what do we need? We need more laws. You know what else we need? We need tax. We need worthless congressmen and senators wasting taxpayer time and dollars arguing about how to funnel money to other programs that they want under the auspices, basically on the backs of dead children. Okay, let's not let a good let's take the famous quote, let's not let a good crisis go to waste. And the current administration is definitely wasting no time in doing that. Okay, so once again, we're going after inanimate objects. The magazine capacity does not matter. Okay, does not matter. Your level of training and the amount of magazines that you can carry on your person, you could do just as much damage as if you walk in there with just as much, if not more damage, as if you walk in there with like 100 rounder. Okay, so lowering magazine capacity will do absolutely nothing. And then what's important in this, and I read through it, but I didn't see anything that says whether we're grandfathered or not. So now you've basically got gun owners for the last, I don't know how many years since I've been alive, that have what's called high capacity magazines for all my weapon systems. Like, I don't think I have a magazine that is less than 15 rounds or at 15 rounds. Like, all my magazines are 30 round magazines. Even my pistol magazines have base pads on them, and they're 20 rounders for my pistols. My standard Glock magazines are 17 rounds. So I didn't see anything in here that grandfathers me to keep me safe and like what I already currently own. And not only that, like, who is going to enforce these laws? Who is going to be out there enforcing the laws? I don't know any law enforcement that wants to waste their time when they have better things to be doing, actually chasing real criminals, than to take me as a law-abiding, tax-paying citizen and be like, hey there, Brian, how many rounds do you got in your magazine? Well, policeman Bob, I actually have a magazine that I bought years and years ago, but I guess it's illegal now. And there's no way. There's no way to enforce this. Police officers have better things to do than to try and go after law-abiding citizens and responsible firearms owners that have been following the law, that are not out there murdering people, that are not out there doing various things, that are either enjoying firearms as part of their lineage and their favorite pastime, or using it to defend and protect their families and their homes under the law. Okay? Once again, criminals are not going to care about how many rounds they have in their magazines. They're just not. Okay? You think a criminal, if he's set and intending to harm or break the law, intending to commit murder, do you think he's going to give a rat's ass about how many rounds he's got in his mag? No. Okay? The only people this hurts is, once again, law-abiding citizens, and it's also a blatant infringement of our constitutional rights. So if you keep scrolling down here, Title 4, or I'm sorry, not Title 4, Title 7. Sorry, yes, Title 7. Okay, this is where they start talking about NICS reporting. Not later than 1 year after the date of the enactment of this act, and annually thereafter, the Attorney General shall submit to the Committee on the Judiciary of Senate and Committee on the Judiciary of the House of Representatives a report that includes, with respect of the preceding year, the demographic data of persons who were determined to be ineligible to purchase a firearm based on a background check performed by the National Instant Criminal Background Check System. So once again, Mr. McConaughey, this is what I was alluding to earlier. We already have a background check system, okay? The NICS system, National Instant Criminal Background Check System. We also have, there's a mental health and drug use questionnaire on the form that you fill out to buy a firearm. We also have waiting periods. Okay, so all of these things already exist. And once again, here we are being extremely redundant in what we're doing. Okay, wasting taxpayer time, taxpayer dollars on trying to enact useless, unenforceable legislation that only hurts the responsible gun ownership of America and is anti-constitutional. So I highly encourage you. I whipped through that really, really fast. It's like, I don't know, 10 pages. Funny enough, you guys will love this. The sponsor of this bill was Representative Nadler, Gerald Nadler, who's a Democrat from New York. So crazy, right? Democrat with all of these great fucking ideas that most of them already exist. So I will get off my soapbox about that. Here's what I will say, because a lot of people have said, what do we do? What do we do? People have asked me specifically, what do we do to combat this? And here's what I will say. After Sandy Hook, I was at design school. And while I was at design school, I came up with a concept for security, a better security, primarily of schools, because I think it's disgusting that children are being murdered. However, I will also say this. I think we can't lose our Second Amendment rights. We just can't. Okay, so for those of you out there that are like, in that Beto crowd that's like, you don't need AR-15s, you don't need AK-47s. Yes, we do. Yes, we absolutely do, because that's what keeps government overreach from happening. Okay, now I've had some discussions with people that were fence sitters, people that were literally sitting on the fence. I had a particular conversation with an individual that was a fence sitter. And this person absolutely had two wonderful dogs. Loved the dogs. And the dogs are fantastic dogs. And I said, hey, those dogs are like your kids, right? And she said, yes. And I said, have you seen what's happening in Shanghai, China? With respect to what they're doing, with the communists are doing with the whole weaponization of COVID. And she said, no. And so then I said, would you want an AR-15 if men in Tyvek suits showed up to kill your dogs? Let's say they want to remove your dogs from your house, put them in a mesh bag, club them to death in front of you, and then wrap you in saran wrap and throw you in the back of a van, stack you in the back of a van on top of other human beings wrapped in saran wrap like firewood, and drive you to a place where they then throw you in a shipping container for 65 days straight. Oh, and by the way, forcibly vaccinate you and throw you in a shipping container for 65 days straight. Because that's happening in Shanghai, China. And she was unaware of this. She did not know this. And so then I said these things to her. I showed her some video clips from, that I've seen via social media of the Chinese murdering people's pets. And she was horrified. Okay. Our ability to own and have firearms under the Second Amendment is what keeps our government in check. It's the one thing that keeps us safe, not only from our own government, but other superpowers. Like, nobody will ever invade the United States because they would have the worst guerrilla war on their hand in the history of the planet. Okay, General Yamamoto himself, when asked, should he invade the United States during World War II, he said, absolutely not. And when he was asked why, he said, behind every blade of grass, there would be an American with a rifle. And that's absolutely true. The Second Amendment is what secures our Constitution, our constitutional republic, and all of our inalienable rights. If we give that up, then the government can do whatever it wants. And we have a big enough problem with the government doing whatever it wants right now. We have politicians right now that want to attack inanimate objects because they want to chip away at their ability to have power. The Second Amendment's ultimate check and balance. If we give that up, we are giving the government the right to do whatever the fuck they want. And after seeing the disgusting abuse of power that occurred during the COVID pandemic, and how bad certain states abused their authority and blatantly disregarded the Constitution and, in some cases permanently harmed some of their citizens with these forcible vaccine mandates and these basically they shut down people's businesses, took away their livelihood. Like there was generational wealth, generational businesses that were lost and went out of business because of governmental overreach during the pandemic. Okay. So when I just had front row seats to that situation happening, and now we have the president coming on, today and basically talking about the second pandemic. We need more money for the second pandemic. Okay. Like I think the first pandemic was probably the dry run. And now they were like, okay, cool. Now we know how to fine tune this and like manipulate and make this work better. So I'm not going to bore you guys with my conspiracy theory, fucking tinfoil hat shit right now. But what I will say is I've seen time and time again in Iraq and in Afghanistan where a population that can't defend itself becomes victimized. I've seen we rolled by mass grave sites during the invasion of Iraq where the Ba'athist regime and the Republican Guard and the Saddam Fedayeen, which was his secret little terrorist police that served under him, they murdered, machine gunned Shia Muslims and dumped them in ditches. I've seen where the Taliban has murdered children that took candy and money from passing U.S. patrols that came through their village because we disarmed them. We went into a village and disarmed the village because we didn't know if they were good guys or bad guys. And as it turns out, they were a neutral village. And the Taliban rolled through and saw that the kids were eating candy and had money from a U.S. patrol, and they murdered them. Okay, so I got to witness that. A unarmed populace that cannot defend itself is a victim. Just look at what's going on in Mexico. In Mexico right now, you've got a population that's caught in between an armed government and an armed cartel, and people get murdered down there wholesale. Okay, the murder rates in Mexico are off the charts because the populace has no way of effectively defending itself. So when we talk about responsible gun ownership, Mr. McConaughey, we have responsible gun ownership. Okay, we have it. It exists. Okay, what we have, to your point, is we have a mental health situation. We have a security of school system situation. So to elude what I started to talk about earlier, when I was in San Francisco going to college, Sandy Hook happened. I ideated a system. I'm currently writing a white paper on it. I'm putting together a presentation on it, and it's a 3-pillared plan. Okay, one involves security protocols, physical security protocols, and I'll talk about what I will talk about openly is I will talk about the physical security protocols and I will talk about the structural security protocols. So physical security protocols. What I mean by that is the physical security of the protocols of the persons in that facility, or let's just say at the school. Okay, so my number one thing is I know that teachers carrying firearms is a very controversial thing, and frankly, like I'm in agreement that teachers should be there to teach. They shouldn't be there to get in gunfights with bad guys. Okay, we should have people that are specifically designated to that, but I'll get to that in a second. Physical security protocols. What would help our schools is, and I don't understand why we don't have this, is why do we not have trauma management training for teachers? Like, why isn't there a TCCC, which is Tactical Combat Casualty Care? Why isn't that being taught to teachers? Why isn't the school nurse? Why doesn't she have to be certified in TCCC? Why don't 1 out of every 3 teachers or all of the teachers have to go through some either basic combat lifesaver or TCCC certification where they know how to put on a tourniquet properly, they know how to pack a wound properly, they know how to seal a chest wound properly, they know how to do a needle decompression, they know how to put in an MPA or nasal pharyngeal airway to secure an airway. Like, these are basic life-saving measures. How come we don't require that? Okay, we're still doing fire drills. We still have fire extinguishers nearly at every junction and every hallway in every school. There's fire extinguishers all over. How come there's not trauma management kits staged with the fire extinguisher? How come there's not a litter or 2 litters there to help move casualties? How come that doesn't exist? How come that's not in schools? Okay. The government right now has got a bill where they want to funnel money on a grant-based system to the tune of $10 million a year per state. And we can't afford trauma management training and trauma management equipment in schools. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. Okay. So then now going down my list under physical security protocols, teachers need to be trained. Okay. Then we need to talk about a dedicated armed security officer. And I'm not talking about Joe Rent-A-Cop from Walmart. Okay. I'm not talking about, TSA Bob that mans the security checkpoint at uh, uh, at the airport. Okay. I'm talking about a highly selected, vetted, trained human. Like maybe we take, maybe we make it as a separate division of a police department, or we could just make it a complete different separate law enforcement type entity, but they need to be post certified, law enforcement trained, and then they need to be trained, on a higher level. Maybe not at a SWAT level, but they need to be trained at an intermediary level between patrol and SWAT, and they need to be dedicated to that school. And on top of that, why aren't they a canine handler? Why don't we have canines working at schools? There's a reason why all special mission units and all special operations units employ dogs on targets. It's why we call them fur missiles. Okay? Because a dog is a huge force multiplier in close quarters gunfighting. Okay? Because if an active shooter walks into a school and he suddenly has a 110-pound Belgian Malinois swinging off of his neck, he's not going to be shooting anybody. Okay? So I propose that these individuals are highly trained in marksmanship, highly trained in trauma management. They know the law, they're post certified, and in addition, they're canine handlers. And they have a canine stationed with them at every school. So you've got an armed security guard that's a professional that maybe has passed a super high qualification, like the U.S. Air Marshals. They have the highest level of qualifications that you can get for firearms training. Okay? Because they're shooting inside the skin of an aircraft. Okay, they have to engage and reduce a threat inside of the skin of an aircraft at 30,000 feet while the plane's flying. They have the hardest weapons qualification course in law enforcement. I would say that individuals that are shooting around children should probably have equal to or better marksmanship fundamentals training and qualifications. So that would be what I would fall under the first pillar of physical security. Okay, the second pillar would be what I would call structural security. Now, these structural security initiatives would be, okay, first of all, lock the fucking doors. Okay, lock your doors at your school. Have entry control points. How was this shooter in Uvalde just able to mosey on into the school? Because it wasn't secured properly. Having all the doors locked may have averted this whole disaster. Something as simple as locking the doors may have averted this whole disaster. Okay? So why aren't the doors locked? Why aren't there proper entry control points? Okay? There's bulletproof film out there. We use this stuff at the embassies. Okay? This isn't new. This isn't anything new. I'm basically proposing things that we do already at other government facilities. Okay? At every U.S. embassy, there's a fire extinguisher on the wall and there's trauma management gear hanging right next to it. This isn't rocket science, people. Okay? At our U.S. embassies, we have bulletproof laminate that goes on the glass. Not bulletproof glass. There's laminate. The technology exists for a laminate, a film laminate that goes on the front and the back of the glass that will stop rifle rounds. Why aren't we putting that on the windows? Why aren't we installing a self-locking bulletproof door on every classroom? So that when shooting starts happening, or even before the shooting starts happening, like just having a good operational protocol where the doors to the classrooms are shut during class when class is in session. And they're locked and they're secured and they're bulletproof so that when a shooter if it happens, gets inside the school, he can't just shoot through the door and hurt anybody. He can't ballistically breach the door and gain access to the classroom to hurt people. This is not rocket science. Okay? Once again, staged medical gear, cameras. Okay? Why aren't we doing cameras? Okay? Apparently they are. There's video footage released from a security camera inside of Uvalde today of the police that were sitting around with their thumbs up their ass while children were getting murdered in the hallway at the school. So those things already exist. But just having a better structural security protocol, a better physical personnel security protocol would probably fix most of these issues. Now, the thing that I'm not going to talk about here is the third pillar to my plan that I'm writing the white paper on. I'm putting together a presentation, and that is the technical part of this equation, because I have a design concept for a commercial off-the-shelf sensor suite that, if it's packaged and have some modifications added to it, will make this three-tiered system. If all of these three things are employed, nothing is foolproof, but it would dramatically increase the safety and security of kids in schools, or any facility for that matter. Like, we could use this at hospitals, because that's another place that violent actors like to go to do things, is at hospitals. So any facility that has a large amount of people, college campuses, any middle or grade school, and any hospital, or really any facility that has a large number of people moving in and out of it regularly that could be a target, could utilize these three protocols and be completely secured. So if any of you out there know anybody that's got 8 figures burning a hole in their pocket that really wants to make a difference, or I would challenge you, Mr. McConaughey, I would challenge you to do more than go to the politicians, because we know the politicians aren't going to do anything. Okay? You went there, you gave a beautiful, poignant speech, you said some very heartfelt things, and look what it got us. It got us the Child Safety Act. Okay? It got us Protecting Our Kids Act. It got us the Protecting Our Kids Act, HR 7910. And in it, there's nothing about protecting our kids. There's nothing about securing our schools. There's nothing that addresses mental health concerns in anything that this act has been put forward. So once again, you said it during your speech. You said the people in power have failed. And guess what? They've failed again. They don't care about kids. They don't care about you. They don't care about me. They care about money. They care about power. They care about self-interest. They care about 47 years in Congress accomplishing nothing in the interest of the American people, and nothing with regard to moving our country down the road into the next century. Okay, so I challenge you, Mr. McConaughey, if you're that passionate and you really want to make a difference, then get a hold of me. Get a hold of me, because I have the answer right here. I have 13 years of operational experience. I have 9 combat deployments. I've had a firearm since I was 7 years old. I train people, responsible armed citizens, law enforcement, and military special operations teams in weapons and tactics. I have the experience in the background to actually do something. So if anybody out here, any of my viewers that are watching this right now, you know somebody that's seriously interested in making a difference and stopping this and doing something in the private sector, I have the answer right here. So contact me. And with that, I will sign off. Thank you very much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed our very first video edition of Weapons Free Wednesday, and we will keep going down the road and pumping these out for you guys. And until next time, peace.
Anyone who runs is a VC. Anyone who stands still is a well-disciplined VC.